Ever get frustrated when you're trying to figure out like if research finding is a big deal or just hype?
Yeah,
So today,
happens all the time.
we're diving deep into something that can really help you cut through the noise
Yeah,
and be a more informed research reader.
absolutely.
It's called effect size.
It's a big one.
And our guide for this is a 2006 article from Applied Psychological Measurement,
Okay.
where researchers, a Guinness, like the beer,
Uh-huh.
and Pierce unveil a new tool that helps us understand this whole effect size thing,
Right.
especially when you're dealing with moderating effects.
Yeah, those sneaky ones.
Yeah.
Sneaky little things.
What's really fascinating about effect size is that I think we often focus on whether a study's results are statistically significant,
Right,
but that doesn't tell the whole story.
right.
Effect size goes beyond just statistical significance and helps us understand the magnitude of an effect.
Okay.
So is it whisper or a shout?
So it's not just about whether something works,
Right.
but about how well it works.
Exactly. Okay. Imagine reading about a new study that claims to boost memory.
Okay.
It might be statistically significant, meaning there's evidence it does something.
Mm-hmm.
But what if the effect size is tiny,
Okay.
resulting in like a really minuscule improvement
Right.
that you wouldn't even notice in your daily life?
Gotcha. So effect size helps us separate the truly groundbreaking findings
Yes.
from those that might be statistically interesting but have little practical impact.
Exactly.
This feels like a superpower for understanding research.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it actually becomes even more crucial when we start to consider moderating effects.
Okay.
Those hidden variables that can kind of change the relationship between two things.
Okay, so I think I need a real-world example for that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's say you're looking at a study on the benefits of exercise for reducing stress.
Okay.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Right, right.
But what if the study finds that exercise is only effective at reducing stress for people who also have strong social support systems? Interesting.
So in this case,
Okay.
social support is acting as a moderator.
Okay.
It's influencing the strength of the relationship between exercise and stress reduction.
So the moderator acts like a volume knob,
Yes.
turning the effect up or down depending on the presence of other factors.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, cool.
And the challenge is that a lot of the traditional ways of calculating effect size often don't take these moderators into account very well, which can lead to misleading results.
And that's where Guinness and Pierce come in with their new tool.
Right.
Exactly. So this computer program that they created seems like a big deal.
It is.
Even landed them a publication in a pretty prestigious scientific journal.
Mm-hmm.
What makes it so special?
Well, their program helps researchers calculate a modified effect size
Okay.
that specifically accounts for the influence of those moderating variables.
Okay.
It's like having a more precise measuring stick
Gotcha.
that gives us a clearer picture of how strong an effect truly is, even in those complex situations.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So
Okay.
to illustrate its impact, Guinness and Pierce actually used their program to reanalyze data from decades of published research
Oh, wow.
in psychology and management.
So they went back and looked at tons of old studies
Yeah,
through this new lens of effect size and moderators.
exactly.
That's fascinating. What did they discover?
Well, they found that in a lot of cases, the true effect size,
Okay.
the one that factored in all these moderators,
Right.
was much smaller than what was initially reported.
Wow.
So it really underscores the importance of having a tool like this
Right.
to provide a more nuanced and accurate perspective.
Yeah, it's making me rethink all those headlines I've read
I know, right?
about like proven ways to improve productivity or
Yeah.
learn a new language faster.
Yeah.
Maybe those effects weren't as dramatic as they seemed.
It's definitely worth being a bit more skeptical
Right.
and remembering that not all statistically significant findings translate into meaningful real-world impacts.
Right.
Okay, so how does knowing about effect size actually empower me as like a reader of research?
Yeah.
What kind of questions should I be asking myself when I come across these things?
So the next time you encounter a study that claims to have found something interesting,
Okay.
don't just stop at the headline.
Right.
Look for information about the effect size.
Okay.
If the article doesn't mention it,
Yeah.
that could be a red flag.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So I should be looking for clues about the magnitude of the effect,
Exactly.
not just whether it was statistically significant.
Precisely. And if you can try to find out if there were any moderating effects at play,
Okay.
did the results vary depending on certain factors or subgroups?
This reminds me of our exercise and stress example.
Right.
The effect of exercise on stress might be different for people with varying levels of social support.
Exactly. Understanding those nuances
Yeah.
can help you determine how relevant the findings are to your specific situation or goals.
This feels empowering because it gives me the tools to evaluate research claims for myself rather than just accepting them at face value.
Right.
It's almost like effect size is like a secret decoder ring
That's a great analogy.
for understanding scientific findings.
Yeah, and it's particularly important in today's world where we're constantly bombarded with information and research claims.
Yeah,
Having this critical lens can help you navigate that landscape more effectively.
right. It sounds like a Guinness, like the beer.
Yeah,
And Pierce's work is really about helping us move beyond simplistic interpretations of research.
absolutely.
It's encouraging us to dig deeper.
It is. It's about understanding that research findings aren't always black and white.
Right.
They're often shades of gray,
Mm-hmm.
and effect size helps us appreciate those nuances.
And by considering moderating effects, we can start to see how those shades of gray might shift,
Yeah.
depending on individual circumstances,
That's
that other factor.
Imagine reading about a study on the effectiveness of a new teaching method. The headline might say, like, new method boosts test scores.
Right.
But what if the effect size was small,
Right.
and the study didn't consider things like student learning styles or teacher experience as potential moderators?
Yeah, that's where things get really interesting.
Exactly.
Maybe the new method is only effective for certain types of learners,
Right.
or when implemented by experienced teachers.
It could be.
Without understanding those moderating effects, we might jump to conclusions about the method's overall effectiveness.
Exactly.
And that's why this concept of effect size is so critical.
Yeah.
It's not just a statistical detail.
Right.
It's a key to unlocking a more accurate and nuanced understanding of research findings.
I completely agree.
So what's the most important takeaway you want listeners to remember from our deep dive today?
I think the biggest thing is just remembering that effect size matters.
Okay.
It's not just about whether a finding is statistically significant,
Right.
but about how meaningful it is in practical terms.
Mm-hmm.
So the next time you come across a research study,
Don't be swayed by the catchy headlines.
right.
Ask yourself, what was the effect size?
Okay.
And consider whether there might be any hidden moderators influencing the results.
I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today.
Absolutely.
Hopefully now they'll be able to approach research findings with a more critical and discerning eye,
Yes.
armed with the knowledge that effect size truly matters.
It really does